I said this to Greg. I'll say it to you guys too. I am not being alarmist here, but I am definitely bothered by the Vrabel depth comment, in the sense that this is normally the type of thing, if a coach says that, that's like a shot to a GM, right. Sort of like, but Vrabel is supposed to also, over the last couple of years, have much more say in personnel matters, as a question of who's running the draft and who's whatever. But look, year one of the Eliot Wolf situation, the 2024 draft was a freaking disaster. I think you, me, and my 8-year-olds would have picked Drake May with the number 3 pick. And every other pick after that was absolutely smoked. Okay. Now, I'm not saying they've whiffed on every pick in the last couple of years, but you don't have anybody's automatic slam dunk. This guy's going to be an everyday Pro Bowl caliber player or impact type player. And some are trending in the wrong direction. Not to say they can't turn things around, but some, like Kyle Williams in year 2, you were hoping he'd be a little further along. Travion Henderson, who's supposed to be a demon picking up the blitz and playing on those passing down, can't do that. As Greg had said, and I think you guys would agree, Ramondre Stevenson is better at almost every facet of the game outside of big plays right now. Will Campbell, we'll see. You're hoping that he's good. You're seeing Lomu and Akis in the early stages. Again, it's really, really early here. But I'm a little bit, like, on a panic meter, I'm a 2 out of 10 worried that these last 3 drafts where they really should have replenished, they didn't make as much headway as you would have hoped with just bang, bang, like an Eagles, oh my God, Pro Bowl. I'm not saying these guys are busts, but right now, we're not putting any of these guys in Canton.
No, and I think you look at the roster as a whole, and I mean, it's definitely top heavy, right? With Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, even guys like Morgan Moses, Milton Williams, thank you. A.J. Brown now too, but with 75% of the guys I just mentioned were acquired and not drafted and developed, right? It's only Drake and Christian Gonzalez, and so yeah, I think it's more of a depth thing, like Vrabel had said, and so it's kind of, you sound the alarm right now a little bit, but there's not a ton you could do right now because you're heading into the 3rd preseason game, and you kind of got to roll with what you have, and so again, dealing with these injuries, maybe you make a couple moves when guys get cut, things like that, but this is kind of the team you have right now. And so for Vrabel to kind of throw that out there, it is an interesting point too, you mentioned, John, because they have tried to be in lockstep and we're doing this together. And Mike Vrabel is sort of the point man, if you will, for the personnel department, even though Eliot Wolf, is the de facto GM. And so even if he is going to try and throw blame, I mean, he has to wear some of it as well. And so I think depth-wise, you saw it today. They're not in a great situation overall.
Yeah,
and I was
blame
mentioning
or not,
it early.
It's just a reality check. It's not
sure.
Whether I don't want to call it blame, as I'm not like, I don't want this hot take and have this get clipped like, oh my God, Vrabel calls out the GM, but he's just stating a fact that we can all see. It's not a deep team.
And I think the messaging from Vrabel being very different than what it was this time last year is him knowing that, look, we got to a Super Bowl. Yes, we blew away expectations, but it's kind of Belichickian. And that when you come off a Super Bowl run, it's not like things get lighter, right? You're not throwing celebrations, especially when you lose. He understands that standard needs to remain high. I think the culture is in place. A lot of the players, like, obviously you have the bones to go back to the Super Bowl, especially after some of your acquisitions that you made to round out the top of your roster and fill some of the major holes that really were exposed in that Super Bowl. But you're right. And I think last year they got very lucky with health, and they acknowledged that they had a lot of players that stayed healthy at very important positions, but we were kind of saying when guys were missing, there were significant drop-offs. You understand that when you're basically rebuilding things almost from the studs and you're really trying to completely retool the roster. But now, in the second year of this Mike Vrabel regime, I think they know we can't get away with having poor depth again, because if we don't have that injury luck, then this is going to be a season wasted where Drake May's still on his rookie deal. We don't necessarily have to throw out all this cash to, different players and put ourselves in some maybe tough positions where we have to rely on the draft. This is a year where their window is open for them, and it will be obviously once Drake May is still there. And I just think he's saying, look, we need to capitalize on this, and it's not going to happen, and it's going to be a wasted season if we don't have the depth behind our starters to at least be playable, because at some positions there are guys that you really can't even put out there.
Right. Year 3 on the quarterback rookie deal is your move year, right? This is where you and they did. They have made their moves. They signed big ticket free agents. You've got the class from last year that they had brought in. You have A.J. Brown that you mortgaged, for a future pick for. You spent money on Romeo Doubs. You put your money out there, and you patch some holes. You'd like to have more depth. And again, you go back to all those Belichick smoked drafts. They left him with nothing. The cupboard was dead bare. And as you said, in the last 2 years, you had non-competitive players out there. I mean, you had guys playing tackle that were like the 70th best tackle in the NFL. Like, they wouldn't have been a backup on half the teams. And so you still have a lot of that remaining where you're lacking in some key areas. And as you said, very, very, very thin. So again, not to be totally alarmist here, but I think Vrabel kind of sounded the alarm for us a little bit.
He's been doing it since last week. It's very clear that he is not happy. And if you carry this into the regular season, like, this is where you need to start really taking that shit seriously, because the games don't count. And you can get away with it for now, but as soon as it's week 1, you're going against the Seahawks, and you got to go and face the Jaguars. It's a brutal beginning of the schedule, so they're hitting the ground running, and you cannot be going into these difficult environments and playing these really tough, deep teams if you don't have the depth to go toe-for-toe with them, and you have to rely on your top guys playing a ton of snaps, especially on the trenches. I mean, the way that the Eagles were able to run the ball for most of this game was embarrassing. You're talking about guys getting blown off the ball after contact. Running backs are, jumping over people. They're trucking guys. It wasn't good. I said that before halftime. Yeah. That was a brutal drive to watch, and it was one boneheaded mistake. Obviously, I got to see again from Mike Brown, but you get the unnecessary roughness, and then they just get 2 chunk plays on underneath passes. Like, that's not acceptable. I don't care if you're backups or what. If you're also playing backups, you need to look a hell of a lot better than they do, especially as a team coming off a Super Bowl berth. I don't care who the other guys are. So I'm glad that he's sounding the alarm, because this is not acceptable for a team that has the expectations that they do entering 2026. And
it puts them in an interesting position, as Vrabel has asked about, where, I mean, do you play the starters and get their beaks wet a little bit for the regular season? And you risk getting them hurt, and then you got to rely on these other guys. Or you throw in the lack of depth, if you will, onto the field and just kind of let them run out there. But then those guys get injured, like a Marcus Bryant today, for example. Or now, if goes down, in the first couple of weeks, or needs a week or two, then you can't rely on Marcus Bryant anymore. You got to go to Caleb Loma, who wasn't great this week. So,
or you do like the mismatch thing where sometimes you don't play Mike Nwenu, and then it's like, okay, you're putting James Hudson in there with Drake May at quarterback. Like, there's just so many areas that could turn into a real problem. So I don't know, man. We'll see what moves they make, but it's impossible to predict what exactly is going to happen this next preseason.
I'm glad you said it that way, because they have a lot of work to do over the next 10 days, for sure.
I know, and this does feel like you could see one of those, guys you could see a 3, 4, 5, 6 new players in here after last cuts, from other teams end of the year, because there's plenty of guys that could shuffle out of here, and they're not going to miss a beat, and they are definitely wanting for depth a little bit. And again, maybe you get lucky, maybe you get something fall into your lap that might be able to help you. But
they got their backup quarterback on the waiver wire last year.
This is what they've got. Yeah, this is what they've got right now. So, so we have what we have. It's still summer. You can make all your picks on Prize Picks. You got WNBA, you got baseball heating up, tennis slams, another big one coming up right now, U.S. Open, major golf tournaments, of course. No better place for your summer sports picks than Prize Picks, America's #1 sports pick app. Biggest stars right now. And as I said, in women's basketball, you want to check that out right now. You've got MVPs raising their games to new heights. Rookies, obviously the Caitlin Clark angle, lots of fun stuff there. So you can check that out. And of course, you've got you've got football preseason going on right now, which is what we're covering. And that's always a lot of fun. You want to get in on the action there and see who's going to do what. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $150 instantly in your lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app. Use code CLNS. Get $150 instantly in your lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app.